Nintendo did their huge direct on April 2nd, going over all of the new features coming with the Switch 2, really pointing out the differences between Switch 1 and Switch 2. So I wanted to just recap these really quick and go over it. So, of course, the Switch 2 is going to be bigger and a different type of screen. So the Switch 1 can go up to 720p in handheld mode. Switch 2 can go up to 1080p. Switch 2 is also 1.5 inches bigger, but still keeping the same thickness. And the Switch 2 on certain games is able to get up to 120 frames per second. I'm assuming those are going to be first-party games versus third-party games, but they have not confirmed that yet. It is an LCD screen, and it does support HDR on select games. The Joy-Con 2, instead of sliding into the Switch 2, will magnetically connect to the Switch 2. And there are bigger SL and SR buttons on the new Joy-Cons. There's also a larger left and right stick on the new Joy-Con 2s. And the Joy-Con 2 acts as mouse control for both the left and the right side. They have improved the in-Switch 2 speakers so that they're more clear and louder. They also now have a built-in microphone in the Switch 2 for those of you who will want to use the new game chat feature that I'll go over in a little bit here. They have also a new stand that's supposed to be more flexible to allow you to prop your Switch up if you're playing it like on a tabletop mode. There are now 2 USB-C ports, one at the top of the Switch 2 and one at the bottom, so you can attach accessories like the new Switch 2 camera. There is now 256 gigabytes of internal storage, and of course you have the option to buy a separate micro SD express card if you want more storage. The dock itself has been revisioned with a new cooling fan system, and it is able, if you're playing the Switch 2 in docked mode, able to support 4K. Which is very exciting for those of us who have 4K TVs. Now we can finally see the Switch 2 games, in 4K. Now they did make a clear differential that the micro SD cards that work in the Switch 1 will not work in the Switch 2, so you will have to buy a different kind of micro SD express card. And they will have some sort of a transfer data feature if you're switching from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2. They've also gone over the new Switch 2 controller, which has a couple of new features and buttons. So just to go over those really quickly, the Switch 2 Pro controllers have the C button, which is for game chat, which is one of the new features coming exclusively to the Switch 2, a headphone jack, and 2 buttons at the bottom that you can customize to make them what you want them to be. So I thought that was super interesting to see. Now, the new game chat feature allows you to voice chat through the microphone built into the Switch 2 and video chat if you buy the Switch 2 camera through games. So you can either all talk to each other if you're playing the same game and see each other if you're playing the same game, or you can chat with each other even if you're playing different games, and you can share your screen. The game chat feature does require the Nintendo Switch Online subscription, but they are going to allow people to access the game chat through March 31st, 2026 for free without having the Nintendo Online subscription, just so you can get used to it. Now, the Switch 2 camera, which is going to release on the same launch day as the Switch 2, which is June 5th. The Switch 2 camera is about $40 USD, and it allows you to plug it into the Switch 2 and you can see each other. And certain games will have functionality where the microphone and or the camera will be important, like the Super Mario Party Jamboree, if you buy the Switch 2 edition of that game. So it's very interesting. I was excited to see some of that displayed. So I'm glad to know that we're going to have native game chat, because that's something that the Switch 1 did not have. You had to use the Nintendo Switch app on your phone to talk to people. It was kind of clunky and disruptive, and sometimes you don't want to use your phone to talk to people that way, because then you could just use Discord or call them. So I think it was different to see it played out that way. So I was curious, but we haven't seen how it works functionality-wise. It does seem like it's a little laggy with the video part of it, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to use the video portion, but just having the mic portion I think is helpful. There's also a new game share feature or over local access network. So you have to be within the same room with your Switches next to each other. You can temporarily share certain games with up to 3 other systems. So one player actually owns the game and the other 3 people are just playing the game, but using their Switch as a controller. And so the games like the 51 Clubhouse games will get a free update so that this game share feature will work. I thought that was a nice touch for Nintendo. That isn't historically something that they've done on the Switch 1, but back in the day with like the 3DS, that was something they used to do, was the game share feature. So I'm glad to see that that is coming back. In addition, they did describe the game cards. So the Switch 2 game card cartridges are going to have like this red box or outline to kind of differentiate it from the Switch 1. But otherwise, it's the same shape and the same size. So that's cool for people who use storage containers to contain all their little physical game cards. You won't have to buy a different one just for Switch 2 games. They didn't get to cover everything in the live stream, and I get it. It was only a 1 hour direct, and they had a lot to show us, including Mario Kart 8 and a lot of the first and third party games that are coming to the Switch 2 in the future. So what they did was they posted a lot of articles online. They have articles where they talk to the game developers about the system and about a lot of the things people are curious about. So for me, I wanted to know like what games are getting free upgrades, because some games you have to pay for upgrades, and those games are going to include things like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Jamboree, Kirby and the Lost Lands. You know, those kind of games are not going to be free upgrades. You're going to have to pay to have the Switch 2 edition. But some Switch 1 games are going to get free upgrades. So the ones that get free upgrades are going to be ARMS, Captain Toad, Mario Odyssey, Mario 3D World, Clubhouse Games, Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, NSMBU Deluxe. That's the new Super Mario Bros. Ultimate Deluxe. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Big Brain Academy. So if you own any of those games, they will get a free Switch 2 upgrade. They didn't say when. I'm assuming closer to when the Switch 2 launches, or maybe shortly after it launches. And then they also had an article going over all of the games that are not going to be compatible with the Switch 2 when it comes out. And I think it's because of the Joy-Con specifically. So these games include Ring Fit Adventure, 1-2 Switch, Everybody 1-2 Switch, Game Garage Builder, Nintendo Switch Sports, specifically the soccer mode, WarioWare Move It, and any of the Nintendo Labo games. Because the new Joy-Con 2 is not the same as the old Joy-Con 1. And so they're not going to slide in correctly. Like the Ring Fit Adventure has this Pilates ring that you slide the Joy-Con into. It won't be backwards compatible with that. So unfortunately, there will be some games that have some functionality unusable or completely unusable. But for the majority of the games, it looks like everything is backwards compatible. They also went over accessories that are backwards compatible. So like the original Joy-Cons, the original Pro controllers, anything that's connected via Bluetooth is going to be backwards compatible. So if you bought like the Nintendo 64 controller to play those retro 64 games, if you have the Nintendo Switch Online subscription with the expansion pack, that's going to still be compatible. So it was exciting to see that you don't necessarily have to run out and buy a whole bunch of new accessories and controllers just because you get the Switch 2. A lot of things are going to still work, and it gives you time to either save up for some of these controllers and Joy-Cons or wait. Now, they have shown us some of the pricing for some of the new accessories, so I'm just going to read over those. For a new Switch 2 Pro controller, it's $79.99 USD, so this is United States dollars. For a set of Joy-Cons, it's $89.99. For the Switch 2 camera, it's $49.99. For a new all-in-one carrying case, it's $79.99. And then for another dock, if you want to have two docks for your Switch, it's $109.99 USD. So, I mean, it's very expensive to have these accessories. The more you can reuse, probably the better, just so that you're not off the bat forced to spend, on top of the $449 cost of the Switch 2, all this money for accessories and $80 for Mario Kart World if you're into that. But overall, I was actually really excited. We had a lot of rumors and a lot of leaks over the months, and to see what we are actually getting versus what people thought we were getting was very exciting. I was happy to see that kind of information, and I'm hoping in the future we get more information in future directs about more first-party games and third-party games that are coming, and a little bit more details about all these updates. They made references to free game updates, but didn't necessarily give us dates for those. There will be an update in late April to the original Switch one so that you can have digital game cards, which was mentioned in the Nintendo Direct from March 27th, but no date for that. They mentioned there's going to be an update to the Switch app on your phone in late May, but they didn't put a specific date on that. So there's a lot of things that we know are coming, but not like 100% sure when it's coming. So it would be lovely to have all these details ahead of time. But let me know about your excitement level for the Switch 2, and are you planning on buying one day one?